Hello, everyone. I'm Sergio Acosta, and this is Dance in Conversation. Welcome. Our last event was all about Miradas and Cabeceos, and more than 50 people came together to talk about these tango gestures. The event was warmly and brilliantly led by Yeva Kelchaiti, tango dancer, relationship coach, and founder of Dance in Conversation. It was not a debate, it was more like an exploration of what lies behind Miradas and Cabeceos. In other words, what really happened when you invite someone to dance in a milonga. The conversation very quickly evolved into energy, deep presence, vulnerability, honesty. Once again, we learned that tango is way more than just a dance. We were honored to have three panelists: Silvia Mesazoma, tango performer and teacher; Sonia Devi, creator and soul of the Facebook group Tango Confianza; and Hans-Peter Meyer, embodiment coach and teacher of Argentine tango. They share profound insights that moved us all deeply, and I hope, if you listen or watch, you will also be inspired by their words and presence. Our events are free and they will always be, but please consider to support us. Any contribution would make a difference and help us to continue setting and promoting this space that, well, if we are not yet dancing, at least gives us the chance to connect and grow a little bit as a community. To donate, go to www.danceinconversation.co.uk/donate. Thank you for your presence and enjoy.
We're gonna start, and I will start by very briefly introducing us. So my name is Yeva. Me and Sergio, we both created this space called Dancing Conversation. It's a forum, but it's also kind of like a space where we explore different aspects of tango, and we explore tango not just as a dance, but also as a tool for personal development and relationship growth. And we like to go deep in tango. As you know, tango is a deep dance, so we want to go deep into our conversations. I just want to introduce our guests. So we have got Sylvia, Sonia, and Hans. Let's start with Sylvia. Sylvia, would you like to just briefly introduce yourself to us?
I'm Silvia. I'm Italian, but I'm based in the Netherlands. I'm a tango teacher and dancer, and I'm very interested in this forum today because my experience with Miradas and Cabeceos is variegated, I would say. So also also from the perspective of a teacher, I've heard many different opinions, and I think it's also important for me personally to understand a little bit more and to transmit a little bit more the message of Miradas and Cabeceos also to my own students. So it's nice to be here and to share in this open forum different thoughts.
Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you. Okay, let's go to Sonia next then.
So I am based in Paris. I'm born from a Chinese father and a German mother. So I'm very much used to navigate between cultures. I'm a simultician, among other things, and a tango dancer. And I have been working all my life on intercultural communication, helping people connecting from very different origins, for example. So connection has always been a big, fascinating topic for me. and also the lack of connection, which leads to addictions, which is another topic that I am working on very much. And sometimes you say tango is a kind of an addiction, is an addiction to connection. So so that's an interesting topic as well. And after the beginning of the crisis, I founded the Facebook group, which is called Tango Confianza, as a way to federate people who we discovered are very lonely, and just also to give them the feeling of being part of a community. Yeah, and one word about Mirada and Cabeceos. For me, it's a dialogue. It's the beginning of the connection. So the question is how to make the Mirada and the Cabeceo a caring medium for connection, while staying aware and respectful of the freedom of everybody.
Thank you, Sonia. And Hans, finally Hans.
Hi. Yeah, thank you for inviting me to be part of this panel. I'm a tango teacher and an embodiment coach, which means that I teach yoga and other things. And I'm based here on Vancouver Island. I have clients all over the place. And this topic has become really important to me. Lots of us in North America are not interested in the codes. They seem restrictive. And the deeper I get into issues of vulnerability and creativity, the more I see these tools as a way to, for all of us, whether we're leads or follows or men or women, to go into deeper places with some sense of structure or protection, and in that, then be able to connect as Sonia and Sylvia have talked about, to connect and to create art, which I think for a lot of us, the more we dance, the art and the connection seems to be more and more important, rather than just getting together with friends to dance. So again, thank you for inviting me to be part of this panel.
Thank you, Hans. You know, I loved that all of you kind of started by introducing themselves, but also honoring the topic and honoring and speaking from a very positive side about these gestures. Maybe some of you know, we have been exploring within the tango community about the attitudes, what kind of attitudes people have towards these gestures. And we found that there was no common agreement. You know, many people have got very, very different ideas on what it is, and maybe for some it builds barriers for connection. For some they don't do that. Or for some, you know, like you said, it's a beautiful way to create the connection. So I think today we're going to try and err on the positive side, hopefully, on the positive side of Cabeceo. And I want to, and Miradas, and I want to start by maybe talking a little bit about, you know, where these gestures started, how these gestures started. And I wanted to start with Sylvia, whose grandmother, she told me that her grandmother was a lady then, a young lady in Buenos Aires, and she was experiencing the then etiquettes when tango was just emerging. Sylvia, I wonder if you would like to share with us, you know, about your grandmother, what kind of environment she grew up in, what kind of etiquettes were at the time or present at the time, and how do you think that informed these gestures, or how these gestures have developed or possibly developed?
Yes. So of course I was not there personally when these gestures started, but I have these clear memories from my grandma telling me stories of her life, and especially of her young life. So she was born in 1912. So when she was 18, 20 was the early 30s. And she was living in a village, so not a big city. And back then, at that time, in that society, talking openly to guys would have been seen like, outrageous. No way. I mean, a young girl, a young woman talking freely to an unknown man, not at all, not possible. So then girls and guys, in order to get to know each other, and to date also a certain point, they were finding interesting ways. So, like, for example, on a Saturday afternoon, they were going on the main street of the village, and maybe the girls were standing on one side and the guys were standing on the other side, and maybe the girls in two or three, they were walking through the street, looking around for the guys, trying not to be seen too much, and the guys looking around for the girls, and then maybe the guy would have written maybe a note or a letter to an interesting girl, and then maybe slowly things would have started. But everything back then was starting through looking at each other, through eyes contact, and nothing more than that, not talking, nothing. And then I can imagine that also in the tango environment, in the 20s and 30s, maybe, the society was the same. So I would say this is the environment where the Miradas and Cabeceos started, where girls and guys, they could get in contact first just by looking at each other.
It's interesting that you're talking about that, because I think that is in a way the first sign of connection, right? If we look at each other's eyes, this is how we know that, okay, I'm interested, you're interested, right? Which I think that is exactly what is happening in Milonga. You look at each other's eyes to see, okay, I'm interested, you're interested. So that's beautiful. Thank you so much, Sylvia, for sharing. I want to go next. I mean, you have been talking about, your perspectives on Miradas and Cabeceos. And since we started on the positive side, and you have got your own ideas, your own experiences about it, I wonder if all of you might be able to share, how do you think this old tradition can be useful in Milongas today? What is it in it that we should honor and appreciate, and perhaps use to our disadvantage for people to be able to get that connection? So maybe let's start with Sonia.
Actually, I found it very interesting, the survey you made, and because it emphasized all the fears and the hopes that people may have when they come to a milonga. Am I going to be seen? Am I going to be rejected? Oh, it's okay for me to, a no is okay, and things like that. We had a few people reacting to other statements like, I enjoy the interplay that happens when doing the Mirada and the Cabeceo. One can start to think, what does it mean to enjoy this interplay? And at the roots of it, there certainly is openness to the other, and generosity comes to mind as well. Just letting ourselves be surprised, be thrilled even by the discovery of another person, another individuality. And Milonga is not just about dancing, and that's also an interesting topic, maybe to explore, because people come to dance, but it's not just about dancing, and it's also about being conscious, of one's personal freedom and of the freedom of the other. Also a balance between people you know. Maybe you are part of a group you know already, and you are tempted to dance with people you know, but at the same time there are people you don't know, and maybe people who are new to a place, and maybe you can be conscious and consciously go towards a new person, for example. And so for me, it's a matter of balance between the familiar and the known and the unknown, balance between personal wants, what you want from a dance, dancing with this or that person, and at the same time some compromise without compromising with one's own boundaries as well. So it's a very complex question indeed.
As you were talking, I remembered something that one of the people that I engaged on Facebook said, and I really honored this idea that he said that, as you were saying, that we come here not only to dance, and there are some other things that we're doing in the Milonga. We're becoming conscious and aware about our environment. And I like that he said that actually dance doesn't start with the embrace.
Yeah.
Dance starts with the connection, the eye connection, because that is the moment when actual connection is happening. Because at that moment, both of the people agree to go into an embrace. And I think that is such an important point to make. I really liked what that he said that. Okay, thank you, Sonia. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Hans, how about you? So the question was about, why do you think how Cabeceo and Mirada can be useful in the Milonga, and what perspective from your experience? And what does it mean to you personally?
When I first was introduced to these ideas, it seemed awkward, and it was something I played along with because the teacher said we should do this, and I thought she was being very, very traditionalist and very stick in the mud. I was dancing a lot of other kinds of social dances in a very small and comfortable community, and the idea that you would not directly ask somebody just seemed like weird. So I loved what your reminiscence about your grandmother, Sylvia. And there was something you said. It was interesting ways to make contact, or that was how I interpreted or heard it. The more that I do the embodiment work that I do, so the more that I practice yoga, the more that I just do things like contact improv, the more that I meditate, the more I'm aware that there's a lot of me that gets communicated that has nothing to do with my words. In fact, my words and my mind are often the least trustworthy parts of me. So when you said, Eva, about this person talking about that the dance starts before the embrace. It starts with, I would say the dance starts when you make the decision to go to the milonga. You're bringing energy up, and then when you walk in the door, people notice you or they don't notice you. So even before you make eye contact, somebody is feeling your energy, feeling my energy. And then to go back to your comment about interesting ways to connect, and then your comment, Sonia, about, you know, what does it mean to enjoy this interplay? I believe that what I'm learning is that there's a whole lot of ways for me to enjoy being alive that have nothing to do with words. And that dance is one of those. And there are some people with whom I dance who I've never had conversations with them. I've had the most sublime dances. There are people with whom I have the most sublime conversations who I really don't like to dance with. And there are people who I know who are beautiful dancers who struggle with words. And as somebody who, as you can tell, I like to talk and I'm in my head a lot, I love this idea of getting to a place where I need to engage with people outside of words. And then to go to what I teach and how this shows up. So I do a lot of work around masculine, feminine energies and polarities. And all of us have masculine and feminine energies, and we express them in different ways. But what I see in the social dance world generally is a lot of excitement about connecting and also a lot of lack of safety. So particularly for women, you know, social dances, and even in our little community, you know, we've had to basically confront men about being inappropriate, and then to the point where I had to call the police at one point because they wouldn't pay attention to my words, you know, our words, our collective words, or to women's refusal to have anything to do with them. So I see things like the codes, or in this case, Cabeceo and Mirada, as ways for us to enter a space. And if we respect those codes, it's actually a way for us to do what your grandmother did, you know, 100 years ago or 90 years ago, which was, and then as you were talking about, Sonia, to playfully engage with each other in a safe way.
Yeah. And
then to find like, oh, is this person's, and I mean, you can tell from, and particularly women are generally very sensitive to our energy. You can tell, like, this man does not feel safe. I don't want to dance with him. And most of us guys don't get that. I mean, I've had people say to me they don't trust me, or I've had one woman say to me who was very important to me that she didn't trust me, and it took me the longest time to realize like why it wasn't like I was being, you know, a jerk in any obvious way, but in some subtle way I was not being present. And so I think things like Mirada and Cabeceo challenge us, certainly as most of us men, to not be in our heads strategizing, to not be using words to try to, you know, and you know, make you dance with me, but to open part of my soul to you. And on the basis of that, and however that expresses energy, for you to feel comfortable enough to for me to lead you onto the floor.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. You know, Hans, you had touched many people's hearts with that. So we're just sharing. I just read the comments, and thank you so much for sharing that. And what struck with me was that you said, you know, you're starting your dance once you enter into the room. So even before you actually make the cabeceo and you become aware of the whole. Yeah, you were saying?
Well, with my students, I say to them, I mean, my business is called Sacred Bodies, mm-hmm. because I feel like there's all this stuff in us that really is sacred, and we don't treat our bodies that way. We don't treat our sexuality that way. We don't treat our dances that way. So I encourage my students to, before they even walk into the whatever kind of dance they're doing, but if it's a milonga, to take a moment and think about this, that they're actually entering into, as somebody once called it, the church of tango. Like, this is the sacred space.
Yeah.
So how can we make this, how can we honor that? How can we treat ourselves, honor our own sacred energy, and also the others there? So thank you for letting me interrupt.
Thank you so much, Hans. Okay, Sylvia, how about you? Do you have lots has been shared, but what's your perspective? Is something that you want to add to what has been said already?
Well, first of all, I love what both Sonia and Hans said, and I think it's very true, and I share very much. I just because I'm a very pragmatical person, so I just was thinking of the first time I heard about Miradas and Cabeceos. And I was like, what? I should go there and stare somebody in the eyes, and I don't know this guy, and I should go there and just look at him, staring at him. Oh gosh, no way, I can't do that. It was really it was shaking me, this thought of doing that. And then I see when I explain the concept of Mirada and Cabeceos to my students, often I see the same reaction, especially from women. Oh gosh, I have to stare an unknown person in the eyes. Oh my God, no. So at the beginning, I think it's a very probably foreign concept, at least from my experience, for the experience with my students, can be a foreign concept. But then once you go over the initial fear that you have and you start using it, then you see, at least I saw for myself, and I can say to my students, how beautiful is this tool, because it allows to connect before doing anything with another person, as has been already said. And it allows you to respect the space of the other. It allows to establish a very subtle, intimate, and respectful conversation and connection before doing anything, before deciding to dance together, before deciding to get to share the tongue embrace. So I think that they can be used if they are well understood, and if the meaning behind Mirada and Cabeceos is well understood, and they are used properly for what they are supposed to be and how they are supposed to be used. I think they are very very respectful tools to share something with another person, or to start sharing something with another person, to start connecting with another person in a total respectful way. So I think this, at least for me, this is the most beautiful thing behind Mirada and Cabeceos.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. I want to call on Hans. I wonder if you want to say something about, how we can feel safe in some way, like how we can handle our vulnerability.
Well, that's from this yogic embodied place that I come from. Like, that's what a large part of the practice is about building the capacity to just, and some may sound jargony, but just hold the space for all that vulnerability. We want to be vulnerable because we know that that's where the gold is. I want to live on that edge. I want to cultivate that vulnerability. And I think things like Mirada and Cabeceos, and to go back to Sylvia's story, so the girls and the boys would be looking at each other, and they would be taking risks with their looks, but they weren't committing to getting married or to opening up their bodies. They weren't even committing to going for a 3-time dance. Several people talked about feeling like a teenager in that moment. And And I certainly did not enjoy those teenage moments, but now it's like, okay, I don't like that feeling, but that's where I'm alive. And I go to tango to connect with that feeling with somebody else. And and I love what somebody said, like the people who I thought were the wrong people because of my interpretation, they ended up being completely different. So it's not so different than in life. And actually right now with our, I wear a mask when I go out. So it's hard to hear people, but I see their eyes, and their eyes I'm noticing how beautiful our eyes are. And, somebody wrote at one point that, our eyes are the window into our soul, but they're also the windows into our longing. And I think in a dance hall, in a milonga, that's when we look at people with that longing. Yeah, we're super open. We're like these little fresh green sprouts, and we want for that to be reciprocated. And when it isn't, it hurts. But to not open up is even a worse hurt. I mean, I think we don't go to milongas because we're not brave. I mean, everybody here who's walked into a milonga where they didn't know anybody is like it's one of the bravest people in their lives. Especially if you come from, a culture where it's unsafe, or you feel you're not raised to look people in the eye, and you're not raised to soften your gaze and allow that part of yourself to be seen, to allow yourself to take the risk of being rejected, and then to get up and do it again. I don't know, like this is one of my teachers said to me once, we dance tango because all of us have a broken heart. That's where we dance from. And some therapist guy who I ran across last year talked about, and particularly for us as men, like when your heart is broken, don't be in a hurry to close it, but like that's an opening to the world. So for me, this, like, you ask for a technique. I don't think we can not hurt. I mean, if we don't want to be hurt, then we don't dance tango, or we do some kind of like prescriptive thing where we only dance with people who respond in a certain way. But I think most of us are here because we want to be stirred in that deep way, and it feels beautiful even when it's really scary. So thank you for the time, and thank you for asking me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hans. So beautiful. I remember one of my favorite quotes is by Albert Einstein. You can live your life and see that nothing is miracle, or you can live your life and see that everything is miracle. But you can only experience miracle if you experience everything, because otherwise you would not be able to experience the miracle. And I think if we, like what you're saying, that we want to, these are the moments that we feel alive, really, when we are on the edge, because in that moment something happens, something more beautiful happens. But if we shy away, if we live in a very comfortable place, then we don't allow ourselves to be vulnerable, then there's almost no possibility to experience that.
Just to connect with what Hans just said, and what you said yourself, allowing to be heard and is being alive. That's very much also what our friends talked in the little room just before. There was Zoe who talked about excitement and having butterflies, and especially not knowing what will happen. So I found that very, very interesting and a very charming feeling, actually, to be thrilled. And I think that that's very tango, the feeling to have to see positive things in negative, so-called negative, anxious feelings. It's all part of life.
Thank you, Sonia.
I've been told so many times by leaders that they don't invite me milongas because I have a severe aura around me. and then when they approach me, then they say, "Oh, but look, you're so friendly and so nice, but you look like you have this severe aura around you, so we don't invite you." So yeah. So I understand that sometimes it's just really, and I really spent, I don't know how many years thinking, why do I transmit this? Why people, they see this severe all around me? Where does it come from? And I still don't manage to understand. So, sometimes it's also good to go beyond the first look or the first impression. And the second thing that that's very interesting is what Danny said, that in Argentina looking at somebody in the eye is just a way to say hi. This is normal, right? It's totally part of the day-to-day life. And then in Italy, we also often look at it. It's totally normal that you walk on the street and you catch lookings from people, and you just cross eyes of people you just cross in the street. Whilst here in the Netherlands, what I experience is that when I walk in the street, maybe I turn around and I see somebody that is looking at me, but this person always turns the look away, because it's not. I don't know exactly, because I'm not Dutch. I see some Dutch friends, maybe they can say something, but I think the culture is that it's not nice, it's not polite to look somebody else in the eyes. So they are just not used to that, because it's not part of the culture, it is seen like something completely unpolite, probably. So it's very interesting. And so then also when you approach tango and you approach the Miradas and Cabeceos, depending on the culture you come from, and depending on how you have been brought up, approaching these tools might mean a completely different thing to you. It can be totally normal, like, oh my gosh, this is a mountain that now I have to hike. So it's very interesting.
Thank you, Sylvia. Okay, and Hans, spot for you.
Well, I've had lots of airtime, so I will say something that I just really appreciate what people have brought here. As I said earlier, I think certainly the reason that I go to Milonga now is because I want to make art with people, like I want to get so vulnerable that we're in this beautiful creative place. And I think that Mirada and Cabeceo, as awkward as they are really important parts of us feeling open enough to take those risks. So I just, I know it's really awkward. I hear lots of awkwardness about it. I just love what I heard today. So thank you, all of you. Thank you, Sylvia and Sonia. That was beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you, Hans.
Thank you. Hans, you wanted to add something about your...
Yeah. So I don't know how many of people are on the call here who are from North America or Central America or South America, or who might travel, but friends of mine are hosting a dance festival at tangomayafest.com in November of this year. Hopefully we'll be all traveling then. And I may be teaching yoga for tango dancers at that festival. I'd love to see people there. And just invite people to check out what I do. I'd love to talk to people more. I really enjoy how tango really informs the practice that I have, and vice versa.
So yeah, thank you everybody for your insights, for your beautiful ideas, for your generosity, for your time here. And Sergio,
No, just thank you everybody for your contributions and for your presence here, and hope to see you very soon again.
Take care. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
And that was the event. But the conversation really has just started. If you have anything that you would like to add, discuss, or have a question for Eva or myself, or for any of our panelists, Sylvia, Sonia, or Hans, you can go to forum.dancingconversation.co.uk. In that space, we are continuing sharing our views about Miradas and Cabeceos, among other topics. If you want to join our mailing list and be invited to our next event, drop us a line at info@dancingconversation.co.uk. I'm Sergio Acosta. Thank you for listening.